title to Camilla B. Moore, who is quite proud of the progress that they have done to advocate. Well. Hello, folks. How we doing this evening? This is Who Did Your Boycott Today. I have changed my title to Camilla B. Moore, who is quite proud of the progress that they have done to advocate for freedmen. These folks are being determined to convert and resurrect Freedmen's Bureau. The research is out there. It was President Andrew Johnson that came up with the term freedmen. The United States Senate website tells you how it came into existence, how it came into law, and these folks who are running around here preaching freedmen, based on the research of Dr. Claude Anderson, they are not being forthcoming. I believe their paperwork is connected to the Indian tribes, and based on Dr. Claude Anderson's research and the letter he sent to Barack Obama, he identified them as black freedmen in that letter. He made sure on the first line of that letter, he was advocating for black Indians and black freedmen. So here we are in the 21st century, and these folks who got this paperwork that say freedmen on it, who got their money stolen from the bank of the Freedmen's Bureau and got their land taken back, they want to circumvent 246 years that was documented as Negro slavery. So they don't seem to care that history is not documented under the term freedmen. So that history is going to be rewritten and given to the Germans, the Italians, the Irish, the Asians, the Latinos, the Mexicans, the Jamaicans, the Haitians, the Bahamas, the Ethiopians, the Nigerians, the Jews, the Caucasians. Everyone that can stand in line is going to want part of that 246 years. These sorry human beings who are on a public app sticking their chests out and proud of what they are pushing forward for the state of California, which present day only has 5% of maybe Negro bloodline in Black Americans and melanated human beings. 5%. A little 5% population, because their population has been whittled down to only 5%. But they are on a public app proud of this legislation that they so-called is pushing forward. That I got to see that day when the population is made up of either what these folks who call themselves white or Caucasian or Asians or Latinos and Mexicans. That is the breakdown of California. Let me find my little green book. Let me see if I can put my hands on my little green book. I'm probably not going to be able to get my hands on it because I got so much stuff that I'm sorting through right now. But I need to put my hands on my little green book. Where did I put my little green book? I got to remember where I put it at. Lo and behold, I cannot put my hands on that little green book right now. But based on my memory just a few days ago, I know I'm not too far off. California had a population breakdown of 5% Black Americans. I don't go by Black American because, as you can see from the links in my chat, Black American is described as an individual with an origin in a Black racial group of Africa. These folks are on a public app talking about legislation when they are not even identified as official identity or a national origin or a nation. But they are preaching to folks to believe that they are going to perform a Houdini when all immigrants have priorities over Black Americans and African Americans. Present day, as I'm speaking, you simply have to go click the link and read the information on the OMB update, the 8th of April 2024 is, I think, the latest update. Before then, it was the 28th of March 2024 when they erased Negro. And all these folks are running around here talking about reparations, and they are not advocating one whatsoever for the term Negro, when those are the persons who went through the crime, who went through the harm, were Negro slaves. But you'd be hard to find any of these sorry human beings saying the word Negro or Negro slavery out their mouth. They have reduced it to descendants of slaves, descendants of American descendants of slaves, American descendants of slaves. What happened to the word Negro? That's why these ungrateful human beings are never going to see one red dime. They may get some government programs and red tape. They're going to probably get some government programs and some red tape, and they may even get their Freedmen's Bureau. But God is never going to reward these human beings for their ungratefulness. They think they're too good to fight for Negro. But they want to use that 246 years to help get their agenda passed. See how low down that is? They can't preach enough about it. They are using every bit of that 246 years to push their own narrative in the 21st century, to push their own agenda. But they too good to fight for that term Negro. So now it's up for grabs for the Germans, the Italians, the Irish, the Asians, the Jews, the Caucasians, the Latinos, the Mexicans, the Jamaicans, the Haitians, the Bahamas, the Ethiopians, the Nigerians, all immigrants that are currently in America, all immigrants that are currently in America, all immigrants that are currently in America are going to stand in line and rewrite that first 246 years and insert their ethnicity. So the ancestors who sacrificed and lived and died through that 246 years is going to be rewritten and given away to other ethnicity. They are already shaping the narrative that the Irish got here first and they were the first slaves. They were not the first slave, but that is the narrative they have already started working on. And the Latinos and Mexicans are already showing up on MSNBC, and the Asians are already advocating for that they were here. But do you hear any of these human beings fighting for Negro? No, Freeman was attached to the Indian tribes. They were attached to the Indian tribes, because how do you jump over 246 years and land on a term called freedman? How do you rectify that in your conscience, that you're going to literally jump over 246 years and land on a term called freeman and think it should take precedence over Negro. How in God's name do you rectify that? You don't. You don't have a conscience. All you care about is your own self-interest. And because your paperwork says freeman on it, you think that you should have the right to tell everyone that's a descendant of a Negro that they have to come up under the term freeman. How low down do it get? How low down do it get? And these folks are on a public app tonight, proud of the work they have been doing. While I just have one simple question. Do they not understand that 246 years is going to be given away to Germans, Italians, Irish, and all these other ethnicity? Do they know that? Or do they even care about that? It don't seem to be so. And that is why I am confident. I am saying on the 22nd of May, 2024, that I may not be alive, but I want folks to record this. These ungrateful human beings are never going to see one red penny of reparations. God is not going to let that happen. They may get some government programs. They may get some education programs, some healthcare programs, some of all of these little nice little programs that they like to invent that never filter down to the persons who needed and it needed the most. These little government programs are going to go to every other ethnicity other than the Blk Americans, or they call themselves freemen. Them persons need to show their paperwork. I want to see some paperwork where their paperwork says freeman or black freeman. I would like somebody to post some paperwork who is advocating for freemen. I would like to see their paperwork. I would just simply like to see their paperwork. Do it say black freeman or do it say freeman? Has anyone had enough courage or backbone to ask that simple question? No, folks just sitting by and swallowing all these lies coming out of these persons' mouth. I believe that Dr. Claude Anderson would not have sent a letter to Barack Obama if he was not correct in what he put in that letter. And he clearly put on the first line of that letter, Black Indians and Black freemen. So which one are you persons? Are you persons freemen or are you persons black freemen? Did you get intertwined with the Indian tribes? That's what I think happened. That's what I think happened. And they want to gloss over that. They want to gloss over that first 246 years and just land on when Freedmen's Bureau came into existence. Excuse me. And that information is on the United States Senate website. You can do a search on Google. It's quick, it's simple to find. The United States Senate website is going to pop up in your search on Google. And it breaks down paragraph by paragraph by paragraph of how the Freedmen's Bureau came into existence. I don't know how these folks have been able to reshape the narrative that is a bloodline. I don't know how they did that. I have no clue as to how they have been allowed to run around here and make freemen a bloodline, what they call a status. But see, they're not just trying to get a status. They trying to get freemen on the census report. And now that the OMB have removed Negro, they are drooling at the mouth that they got the green light. Right now, they're just trying to push for a Freedmen's Bureau. That's just the first step in a little scheme to replace their term for that Negro term. Like Dawn went before the OMB, and she's on that stage tonight. She's in that space tonight, and on that stage, I don't see how that sorry human being ever shows her face in public ever again. But she keeps coming back. She keeps popping up with new Twitter profiles, names. She should not even show her face in public. She went before the OMB and told the OMB to remove all ethnicities on those census reports of every person that had arrived in America by 1865. Now that's one sorry human being to to put together a whole presentation and present it to the OMB and have the gall and the balls to ask the OMB to change every ethnicity. And that would have been some of my family members, because some of my family members are on that census report. And Dawn Concerned Black America, whatever her name is tonight, did not contact me and ask me how I felt about her asking the OMB to change my family members' ethnicity to Freeman. She didn't care to do that because she's a low-down, sorry human being. Because she is a low-down human being. And all she cares about is her self-interest and her self-agenda. She did not care to ask any living persons, any living descendants of those persons on that census report, how do you feel about me making a presentation to the OMB and asking the OMB to change every ethnicity on those census reports to Freeman? She didn't bother to ask any persons of those ancestors and family members. She just went forward with her own agenda. And so the hard cold truth is that every Black American, every African American currently living and breathing tonight do not have an official identity, do not have a national origin, do not have a nation. You are simply invisible. But you got educated folks and common sense folks on a public app feeding you legislation that they are pushing when they don't even have identity in America. Night after night, they lay down and they do not have an identity. They belong to a Black racial group somewhere in Africa. They got all the time in the world to string you along on this reparations fight when they don't even have an identity. Make it make sense, please. Can anyone please help me make it make sense? That you and me, well, I'm not going to really include me because I have my birth certificate, and my birth certificate says Negro, and my mother's paperwork says Negro, and my grandfather and grandmother's paperwork says Negro, and my great-great-grandfather and great-great-grandmother paperwork says Negro. So that definition that's on the OMB website does not apply to me. As long as I have my paperwork in front of me, that definition does not describe me as a human being. It does not apply to me. But all you folks who identify as Black American and African American, you need to be shouting to the top of your lungs to get that definition changed, because you and your children and grandchildren do not have any rights in America. As long as that definition is on that OMB, you do not have any rights in America. And that includes those little fake 13th Amendment and 14th and 15th Amendment, because I'm willing to bet the same wording that you are not going to find when you go read the 13th Amendment and the 14th Amendment and the 15th Amendment, they're going to have the term either Black American there or African American. Well, you know what the definition of the term Black American and African American is spelled out on the OMB. So after you read both documents, all the documents, then you convince yourself, do that definition on the OMB website, describe a human being. Just simply ask yourself a simple question. After reading that definition, do that definition describe an individual human being? And you're going to be able to answer that question, no. So every immigrant that's on that census report, each of them have an official identity. Each ethnicity, just read down the whole list. Each one of them on that census report have a official identity. They have a national origin. 2. Number 3, they come from a nation. None of those 3 things apply to the term Black American and African American. But these sorry human beings are on a public app tonight bragging about reparations getting passed in California. Reparation hasn't gotten passed in California until you read the fine print. Until you read the final bill that's voted on. All of this is smoke screen. I want you folks to record this because you're gonna get that rude awakening someday. It may be 6 months from now. It may be 1 year from now. It may be 2 years from now. But I want you to save this recording. And they are not going to ever get reparations as far as cash. Now, they may get some made up government programs, housing vouchers, or whatever they want to call it, and dress it up as reparation, but they are never going to see one red penny, not one red penny of reparations. They're going to live in delusional land, and most of these folks are going to continue to collect their fat paycheck. Because it's quite a few of them collecting a fat paycheck, pushing this lying narrative. They are quite happy. They got good, comfortable jobs. And they are collecting a good, comfortable paycheck monthly, while they spending all this time and energy stringing folks along. And I can bet you anything, you are not going to ever see one red penny of reparations, because Negro came before freedman. Negro came first, and freedman was passed into law, and it was supposed to stay in existence for 2 years, only 2 years. And during that 2 years, folks' money got stolen from the Freedmen's Bureau Bank. Folks' money got stolen from the Freedmen's Bureau Bank, and folks' land got taken back. During that little short period of time of 2 years, they are willing to get on a public app and run around here and advocate for freedmen when it was only in existence for 2 years. But totally disrespect 246 years. But as I'm sitting here thinking and talking, I need to correct myself in midstream. I think it may turn out to be a blessing. I really do think it's going to turn out to be a blessing. I am not freedman. I don't have no freedman paperwork. And like I've said on my other broadcasts, there are 3 justice claims. The Negro ancestors justice claim, the freedmen's justice claim, or the black freedmen justice claim. The freedmen or the black freedmen justice claim is separate from the Negro ancestors justice claim. I want that heard loud and clear. That is separate from those persons who want to be American Indian and Indigenous and Black American and Black Indian and Native American. I don't know which name they go by. But those are three separate justice claims. And so as I sit here thinking, I think it's going to be a blessing. It's going to be a blessing when they get the bad news from the good Lord, when God delivers that final blow. They're going to get that rude awakening. And Negro is the history that have to be saved. But folks don't care about it. They don't care about it. It's apparent that they don't care about it. But they're going to get their just due. They are all going to get their just due. And my suggestion and my advice is for all these folks who are running around here identifying as Black American and African American and freedmen and ADOS and FBA. I think you need to get on an airplane and fly to Africa and try to find that Black racial group that America has placed you in. That would be the best thing that I could say, is that you folks who want to hold on to Black American with a death grip, want to hold on to African American with a death grip, want to hold on to freedmen with a death grip, want to hold on to ADOS with a death grip, who want to hold on to FBA with a death grip. Well, you need to get on an airplane. You need to get on an airplane and fly to Africa and try to find that Black racial group. That Black racial group. 3 words. Black racial group of Africa. Somebody needs to get on an airplane pronto and fly to Africa and try to find that Black racial group of Africa that America has put you in. While y'all being strung along with this false hope of reparations, you don't even have an identity. But somehow or another, you're supposed to perform a Houdini and get reparations passed, when America don't even recognize you as a identity, ethnicity. You don't even have that recognized. But you can sit on a public app day after day and listen to these people lie to you, when you and your children and grandkids don't even have a identity, a birthright. You belong to a Black racial group. So why are all of these intelligent and common sense persons running around here opening Twitter spaces and YouTube channel broadcasts and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, and nobody is showing a backbone to fight for their birthright? Why is that? Why is that? Why is it that all immigrants have priority over Black Americans and African Americans? Because they have a official identity. Their birthright is recognized. They have a national origin. They have a nation. They have all 3 of those things, and Black Americans and African Americans do not. So why in God are all of these adults waking up day after day and not fighting for their birthright? They too busy caping for Republicans and Democrats and independents. They too busy running around here lying about reparations and giving folks false hope. I don't know how you plan to get reparations when you don't even have an identity. You can say all these nice little dressed up words. We're going to base it on lineage. We're going to base it on lineage. Well, what is your lineage? What is your lineage? Is it Black American? Is your lineage freedman? Is your lineage African American? Well, that definition makes it clear that you cannot get reparations based on that definition on the OMB. It's not rocket science. Y'all can keep on using this word called lineage. Well, that lineage got to trace back to something. That little word called lineage got to trace back to Black American. That little word called lineage got to trace back to African American. That little word called lineage that y'all like to say out your mouth constantly, it's got to trace back to some ethnicity. And right now, you folks don't have an ethnicity. You belong to a black racial group. What is that ethnicity? That's not an ethnicity. No human being belongs to a black racial group. Every human being has a birthright. They come from an original bloodline. A original bloodline. A original bloodline. A original bloodline. Where is the original bloodline of Black American? Where is the original bloodline of African American? Somebody needs to answer that question. Are you going to continue to be harmed by America? They have already harmed Negroes for 54 years. So you can add 55 years on it just this time next year. Right now, it stands at 54 years. A whole 54 years from the date of backdated all the way back to about around 1965. It's about when America started harming Negro descendants by lumping them under a term called Black American and African American. And the OMB put the final nails in the coffin on the 8th of April, 2024. If you haven't clicked that link in the comments section, go read it for yourself. All the information is in that link. All you got to do is go read it. They're not hiding it. They're not trying to keep it a secret. All you adults have to do is go read it. And then when you get done reading it, you are going to hopefully be able to process that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 does not apply to Black Americans or African Americans. You need to swallow that while you're at it. Because when you read the wording in the Civil Rights Act of 1964, it applies to every immigrant, but it does not apply to Black Americans and African Americans. Based on that definition again, that is why immigrant invaders can get priority over you. Because you identify as a Black American and an African American, and those are made up terms. America has just put a description of birthright as a Black racial group. What is that? Who is that? What is that? Who is that? Can anyone answer that? Who is born into the world belonging to a Black racial group? All of these other ethnicities are born into a official identity, a official bloodline, a national origin, a nation. The Asians come from a nation. The Latinos and the Mexicans, they all come from a nation. They have a national origin. They have a birthright. Jamaicans, they have a national origin. They have a nation. They have a birthright. Haitians, they have a national origin. They have a nation. They have a birthright. But that does not apply to Black Americans and African Americans. Why is that? Do you think that is by accident? Or do you think it's being done on purpose? So while folks got you distracted, giving you false hope of reparations in California, I would suggest you go click that link and read that information on that OMB website, because as it stands, until that definition gets changed, you don't have any identity and you will not get any rights in America. How in God's name do you expect a bill to go to the floor of the Congress for a black racial group? Can anyone answer that? How do they draft a bill to bring to the floor of the Congress to be voted on for a black racial group? How do they draft a bill for the Senate to bring to the floor to be voted on for a black racial group? Do anyone have an answer for that? Because all these immigrants are doing a job of using the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Because it looks like we all got bamboozled. I mean, I would not have caught it if the Jews had not passed that hate crime bill. I mean, I have heard folks say the Civil Rights Act more times than I can count. But did I ever really read it carefully? No, not until recently. Not until recently, I had never really read it carefully. And when I read it carefully, I want any of you persons to read that Civil Rights Act of 1964 and explain how it applies to Black Americans and African Americans. It does not. It's just that simple. That wording bamboozles all of us, and my heart goes out to the ancestors who got sabotaged. They literally got sabotaged by the wording. They got beat over the head and hoses watered with hoses and dogs sicked on them, all thinking that they had marched and fought for their rights, only to come to the understanding that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 does not apply to any Black American or African American. It only applies to immigrants. Only. And now it makes sense. The dots connecting. That's about around 1965 when they passed the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And then shortly after that, they started leaving Negro off of birth certificates. See how all the dots are connecting? It's been 54 years that America has been harming all descendants of Negroes. 54 years. 54 years. And it looks like you folks not going to have a backbone to fight to get that definition changed. So it's going to be a 55 years this time next year. It's going to keep on going up, up, up. Right now it stands at 54 years. This time next year, it'll be 55 years. And so on and so on and so on. Because y'all, not one of you adults, none of these adults who are running around here giving folks false hope for reparations, not one of them are talking about the reality that they do not have an identity. Saying Black American out your mouth means nothing. It means nothing, nothing, nothing. Saying African American out your mouth means nothing. Putting it in print means nothing. Because you simply have to go read the definition and you'll come to that conclusion on your own. But most of you don't have the courage to go read the definition. You want to stay in denial. You want to continue to be in denial instead of clicking the link and going to read the information. Why is that? I need to try to understand why you adults are still running around here saying Black American out your mouth and African American when have you read the definition? That's all I ask. That's the only question that I have. Every day that I wake up and keep hearing adults say they are Black Americans and African Americans, the next question that comes to my head is, have they went and read the definition on the OMB? And I have to simply answer myself, no, they have not went and read the definition. Because if they had went and read the definition, I don't think they'll keep on saying Black American out of their mouth. They won't keep on saying African American out of their mouth. If they have taken the time to go read that definition, why would anyone want to inflict that self-harm onto themselves? Because that definition does not describe anyone. It does not. I mean, it's only a few words. It's only a few words. So there's no way for you to get confused. You can read, it's not even that many words. I think it's less than maybe 10 or 15 words. So I don't see how you can get confused with reading 10 or 15 words and not being able to comprehend it. Because it's so adults not went and read the definition. Do they want this to be passed down to their children? Is not 54 years enough for harm? Oh no, you want it to get passed down to your children and grandkids. You just so happy to understand that America has harmed Negro descendants for 54 years because they lumped them under a term called Black American and African American. The facts are there. It's not hidden. It's not hidden. They're not keeping it a secret. It looks like you folks just don't have the backbone to fight for your birthright. I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, you're witnessing the invaders getting priority. They are literally getting priority. And now it makes sense why they can get priority, because they have a status. They have a status first of refugee, and they have a national origin. They all come from a national origin. They all come from a nation. So now it's a light bulb going off for you folks as to why all these immigrants get priority over Black Americans and African Americans. It's a light bulb going off yet. I think it should be. Like I started to say, I would have never caught it if the Jews had not passed that hate crime bill in the Congress. I just happened to be in La Farmer, Ari's space, the night that he read it. I would just happen to be there at just the right time. I just happened to be in his space at just the right time when he started reading it, that section of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And as I sat with my phone in my hand, listening intently as he read, I said, lo and behold, that Civil Rights Act does not apply to Black Americans and African Americans. And I want anyone to send me a DM if they can correct me. If I am wrong, I would love to be corrected. I would love to be corrected. If anyone can read the definition on the OMB and the wording in the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and explain how it applies to Black Americans and African Americans. Based on the wording, if you know how to just comprehend wording, like they always say, the details are in the wording. All the details are in the wording. And the details are in the wording. I'm willing to bet my life on it. that all of these laws and policies that have been passed over the decades and decades and decades have that similar wording. I'm willing to bet my bottom dollars that is the case. That's why it was so critical for the OMB and America to remove Negro, because Negro was the only race and ethnicity that gave the ancestors and their descendants any rights in this country. That was the only ethnicity, because they carved it out. They labeled it Negro slavery. They emancipated Negro slaves. They wrote it in Special Field Order 15. They put it in the wording in the Civil Rights Act of 1866. It's documented all along the way. So, again, it's going to turn out to be a blessing. I think it's really going to turn out to be a blessing that Negro is not on that census report as part of that made-up definition, because that definition is made up. It does not describe any human being birthright. Let me say again, that definition does not describe any human being birthright. It's made up. It's just some general words that the OMB put in print, but it has no meaning. It has no importance or value or whatever you want to call it. It's empty words. It just simply are empty words that do not identify a individual's birthright. But all those other immigrants that are on that census report, their birthright is recognized. Is recognized. And so, I am not confused. I just don't understand why all of these adults are running around here lying to people and stringing them along about reparations, when you can't get reparations if you don't have an identity. How does that happen? You can say the word lineage all you want. The lineage has to trace back to some ethnicity. And the definition on the OMB describes the Blk American and African American ethnicity belonging to a black racial group. You can make up all of these other general definitions: American descendants of slaves, American descendants of slaves. Well, who are the American descendants of slaves? Seeing as how folks don't want to break things down to the nitty-gritty, what ethnicity makes up that little general term, American descendants of slaves? It sounds good. Folks don't want to use Negro descendants of slaves. See, that's why God is not going to reward you, ungrateful people. God is not going to reward you, folks. Y'all just cannot get that through your head. You just cannot get that through your head. God has dealt you a zero for well over 40 years. From what I can understand from my research, this madness started around 1980. And God has delivered each of you a fat zero. Failure. Because when human beings can display the level of ungratefulness that you persons have displayed over the past decades, it's no surprise that you have been delivered a fat zero. You want to claim that harm, but you don't want to identify with the term that those persons live their life. It was Negro slavery. It was never called Blk American slavery. It was never called African American slavery. It was never called freedman slavery. It was never called ADOS slavery. It was never called FBA slavery. It was never called any made-up term that these folks keep making up new terms every day. Black American Negro freedmen, Black American Negro freedmen. It's a made-up term. And America's never going to recognize it. And my paperwork says Negro. And I am not going to change my identity from my mother and my grandfather and my grandmother because with a brain dead brain cells make up a term because it sounds good. Black American Negro freedmen. Negro came first. Negro came first, and Black American don't belong in front of the term Negro. It's disrespectful. It's total disrespectful to even to put it in print or to say it out your mouth. It's totally disrespectful to the Negro ancestors who went through slavery for 246 years. But you ungrateful folks don't mind being disrespectful. Why in God's name would you want to disrespect the ancestors that way? If you wanted to make up a term, you could say Negro Black American freedmen. That would be showing honor and respect for what came first. Black American did not come first. It did not come first. Because if it had came first, when I was born in 1962, they would not have put Negro on my birth certificate. So how can I be confused about that? So from the time the Negro ancestors were emancipated from 1865 up until the moment that I took my first breath, they were still putting Negro on birth certificates. So if they were using the term Black American, then that would have been put on my birth certificate, and it was not. America did not start leaving Negro off of birth certificates until sometime after 1965. But y'all folks have rewritten a whole narrative because y'all got this death grip on the term Black American. Oh, we can't give up our culture. We can't give up our culture. We're not giving up Black American. Black American is a made-up term. Black culture is not made up. But Black American is made up. But Black culture is not made up. Black pride and Black power is not made up. But Black American is made up. You have to be able to separate it. Unless you plan on changing that definition on the OMB. It's very simple. If you want to continue to hold on to Black American and African American with a death grip, then just simply get the OMB in America to change that definition. It's just that simple. But y'all not talking about it. Y'all pretending like it's not even happening. That's the crazy part. You running around here as adults pretending like it's not even there. Why are y'all doing that? I would just like to try to understand. Why are y'all getting up day after day pretending like that definition is not on the OMB? Why? Why are you pretending that? You got all this time to talk about P. Diddy and Umar and somebody named, what is his name? I can't even remember the other human being's name. I don't even follow rap. Y'all got all this time in the world to be caping for the Republicans and caping for the Democrats and caping for the independents, but you ain't got no time to cape for your birthright. The OMB has, in your face, they have in your face told you your description of your birthright, and you have just gotten up and went on with your life and your merry life like nothing, like they did nothing. That is so crazy. That is so bizarre. I mean, it really is crazy and bizarre. I can't make sense of it. I thank God. I thank God every day that I wake up that I have Negro on my birth certificate. I really do. I barely made it. If I would have been born a few years later, I would have ended up with nothing on my birth certificate or Black American on my birth certificate. And if I would have been born after 1980, I would have ended up with African American. thank God that I was born in 1962. I barely made it. I barely made it. I mean, I have reflected on that. I have really, really come to grips with that reality that I barely made it. Because if I had been born just a few years later, I would have ended up with a blank birth certificate or Blk American being put on my birth certificate. I am so thankful and grateful to the good Lord that Negro got put on my birth certificate, and I was born a Negro and I get to die a Negro. See how that works? I came into the world, born and birthed into the world as a Negro, and I'm gonna die a Negro. That's a wonderful thing. Wonderful thing. That's a very proud thing to be proud of. I'm very proud of it. I can say that without stuttering because I clearly know, I clearly have a brain that the definition on the OMB does not describe my identity, my birthright. My 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 birth certificate describes my birthright. Not that made up definition, not that made up definition on the OMB. I don't know who they are describing, but they claim to be describing Black Americans and African Americans. But I clearly know because I have read that definition over and over and over and over and over and over and I cannot make sense of it. I don't know who they're talking about. I have no clue who they are talking about, but they claim they are talking about Black Americans. You folks go read it for yourself and decide who they talking about, because I clearly have not been able to figure that one out. I have not been able to figure that one out. But I mainly got on this microphone. I'm going to go back on mute. I mainly came on this microphone to send a clear message to Camilla B. Moore. I first met this lady on Clubhouse back in 2022. I remember coming across a space that she opened on Clubhouse, and to make it as clear, to pinpoint it as clear as I can, it was sometime around March or April of 2022. I came into her space and she made me a mod. I didn't know her from a can of paint, but I can never forget that day. Mark King Carter came in that day on Clubhouse, and they were talking about NARC and NCOBA had just did a news release, a press release or something. I remember those little details. That was the first time that I got introduced to Camilla Moore. Other than that, we have not had any interaction. I mean, I have been in a few spaces on Twitter that she was on the stage, and I acknowledge her. I will always extend respect. As long as someone respects me, I'm going to respect them. So, but as far as us having any other conversations, we have never had any outside conversation. I did not have a conversation with her that day on Clubhouse. All I knew is that I looked at my avatar and I was a mod. I didn't know why, but I knew I had to try to be a mod. So I remember telling Mark King Carter to allow other folks to talk. And I see he is in rare form over here on Twitter. The same character that I ran into on Clubhouse back in 2022 is the same character that Mark King Carter had today. He hasn't changed one bit. He is true. That's a great thing. I don't know him that well either. I mean, we have had we bumped heads a few times on Clubhouse in a couple of spaces, but it wasn't that many times. We didn't run in the same circle. The spaces that I go in, so our paths really did not cross very much on Clubhouse. We were not at each other's throat over there. We did have maybe how you folks have contributed. I want you, as you look at the audio, I want you to identify how you are playing your part to help America rewrite 246 years of Negro slavery. And Camilla Moore, her name can be added to that list. Yes, Lord. Her name and many other persons' name is going to go down in history as to what part they played in erasing 246 years of Negro ancestors' history in this country. That's going to be given to the Germans, the Italians, the Irish, the Jews, the Caucasians, the Asians, the Latinos, and Mexicans, and Jamaicans, and Haitians, and Bahamas, and Ethiopian, and Nigerian folks. But when it's all said and done, America will make sure that Negro slavery never happened. Give it about 5 to 10 years. Just give it about 5 to 10 years, and America will do their absolute best to rewrite history, and it will be like Negro never happened. And so that includes your made-up, imaginary American descendants of slaves too. Just so we clear here. All your folks who want to make up y'all new definition, that includes your little made-up definitions too. Don't think your little definition is going to carry any weight, because Negro slavery carried precedence and weight, and nothing that come after that will ever be able to carry the same weight and precedence that Negro did. And seeing as how you folks didn't want to save it, you didn't want to fight to save that nation, it's going down the tubes. It's being washed down the drain. It's being rewritten. So your little made-up definition of American descendants of slaves, Black American descendants of chattel slaves, ain't going to carry the weight. Just not going to carry the weight. So it's a waste of time. It's a waste of words. It's a waste of energy. Because you folks was ungrateful. You were ungrateful and disrespectful of the 246 years of Negro ancestors' sacrifice and achievement. You folks didn't care enough to want to fight for it. It didn't matter enough to you. It did not matter enough to you that the OMB wanted to remove it. It didn't matter enough to you. So America, the OMB removed Negro on the 28th of March, 2024. And that little definition on the OMB is going to make sure that not one of you ever red penny of reparations. Go read the definition. That's what you get when you're ungrateful. That little definition on the OMB website has made sure that you folks won't ever see one red penny of reparation. Go read it and tell me I'm wrong. Go read it and tell me I'm wrong. Send me a DM. Y'all folks have a good night. Thank you for popping in. I'm just completely fed up with these brain dead people. Y'all have a good night. Hope you had a good day. Stay out of harm's way and take care.